original concept, or the original concept for the art for Scéal came about from a discussion I had with a couple of artists who work in games. And we were trying to talk about or brainstorm ideas for things that would be a little bit cutting edge or something different than what had already been tried. And I mentioned before the game Limbo and how its art style and audiovisual style create this really powerful ambience. So in a couple of discussions I'd had, we came across two elements that we wanted to explore. One of them was the idea of having a hand-painted visual style for a game. Most games will have a very sort of pixelated look, thinking like games like Sonic and Mario, for example, or other games will have a very hyper-colorful look, but they tend to look digital, if you will. And we wanted to try and explore the idea of creating games that had a very hand-painted, organic style to it. The second thing that came across was the idea of having something that was dynamic, and this really tied in with this idea of a hand-painted world, the idea of a living image, a living painting. We decided to base Scéal inside a storybook to have the activity and the gameplay take place in this living, dynamic storybook. As a way to sort of reference the idea, the core principle of the game, or the core goal, which is you're trying to uncover your story, which has somehow been forgotten. You don't know who you are at the start. So as you go through the story and figure it out piece by piece, you'll also paint and flesh out and repaint this story itself as a storybook, a physical book. We decided also to use elements of pop-up storybooks because it adds a lovely element of dynamic motion. So as you move through the world, it's not only repainting itself, but you're seeing little portions of it, houses, trees, etc., pop up into life as you approach them and move away as you move away from them. And this little bit of dynamic activity creates it really enhances this feeling of a living book, a living story. So the inking in Scéal plays a really important part in the game. You're able to repaint the world, or re-ink it, if you will, dynamically, changing completely the visual style. And this is a key feature of the game. We had a lot of issues with finding ways to make it work, especially when trying to squeeze it down to fit on an iPhone or an iPad. Everything that you see in the game, every object is hand-painted, but it's been hand-painted 9 separate times, so that we have a very rough version of it. We then have a more detailed version, and then we have a very, very finely detailed version of it, so that in the game you can see that house, for example, blend between these and looking like it's magically painting itself dynamically. We've also had to do the same with the different moods for every object. So we have a very dark version of them where everything is dead, like the middle of winter. We have a more sort of a spring themed one where everything is a bit more bright and you can see a bit of life. And then we have a really vibrant, colorful version of the object, which is equivalent of summertime in full bloom. So trying to find a way to balance every single object to make sure that it looked equally strong across all those different 9 versions required quite a lot of brainstorming and discussion and back and forth feedback and tuning.